Welcome, everyone. We are focusing on a subject that has basically engulfed me personally in the last 3 months, and I truly believe it is our duty to raise it and shout out to the world on the importance of it. Accessibility in times of emergency, leaving no one behind, Ukraine 2022. And this is as part of the 15th session of the Conference of State Parties to the UN's CRPD. We're very honored to be here. I am Michal Rimon, the CEO of Access Israel, and I'm not going to jinx it. Every time I introduce myself as the proud CEO, proud of the accomplishments, the projects, but most of all the people. And today you're going to meet some of these people, whether it's employees, volunteers, or partners. It is just through the cooperation of all these players we can really do what we're doing. It feels so good to see you all here. It feels, in a way, that every year when we meet at the COSP, it is like the celebration for everything having to do with disabilities. A celebration of sharing, of learning, of putting the subject that at the end of the day is so important to us all on such an important international table. Before I begin, I would like to mention a few things about the accessibility of the event. In order to be more accessible for people with visual disabilities, I will give a quick visual description of myself. I have blonde, brownish hair, wearing a black shirt, and behind me, a very colorful picture, the most accessible picture, I think, in Israel, in memory of Neta Rotman, my deputy, who unfortunately passed away, but she's with us at heart. We have sign language provided by Pamela Suto, and we also have embedded captioning for your convenience. So, welcome to all. We are so happy to welcome you to the Access Israel Network for Accessible Future. For all of you newcomers, this is a network of experts, policymakers, technologies, service providers, business representatives, and many, many more. The goal of this network is to come together, to share, to remove barriers, and to make sure we're leaving no one behind in general, and specifically on the subject we're focusing on today. Now, we will, of course, have amazing, inspiring speakers, both from Ukraine, from Israel, and from all over the world. Now, the idea is many of them you will not recognize, because it's not only about bringing the experts on board, it's bringing the people from the ground. This whole thing is about listening, not just hearing, the voices of those who are really in the place of emergency, doers, heroes from the ground, and we will meet them soon. Finally, it's obvious this subject has lifted its head following the recent war taking place in Ukraine. However, this subject is relevant to us all. I'm inviting you not just to listen from the mode of what is happening there, but what can occur to me in my country from war, from natural disaster, or any other cause. We all had faced a pandemic, and we are even still in the midst of it. Let's join hands to make sure, opening our eyes, understanding, and really making a difference to make sure that the next time of emergency, the largest minority in the world is not left behind. Now, I would like, as I said, we're starting from the general, and I'm very happy to invite Yuval Wagner, the founder and chairman of Access Israel, to talk about preparedness in times of emergency for the inclusion of people with disabilities and the elderly. Yuval?
Hi, my name is Yuval Wagner. I'm the founder and chairperson of Access Israel organization. I will now share my presentation, but just before, I will describe myself as a bald man in the 50s, white, brown eyebrows, brown eyes, reddish face, and I'm wearing a gray polo. I will now again share my presentation. So I will talk today about preparedness for emergency situations. Access Israel mission is to make Israel a fully accessible country for all kinds of disabilities in all areas of life. We do this for already more than 22 years. In Israel, we are very experienced in emergency situations, which actually we would usually like to avoid. But let's go over the various options of emergency situations. We have war, we have climate and weather like floods, tornadoes, snowstorms, earthquakes, fire, chemical, biological, and radiological, power outage, and others. We all know that we never want this to happen, but today we'll discuss how to prepare that when it occurs, we save life as much as possible, and especially for people with disabilities. Emergencies are tough for everyone, but for people with disabilities, it's 7 times tougher and life-threatening. So we have, and we should do everything we can to avoid in advance emergency situations. And that is the first mission before everything. But anyway, the most important things is to prepare in advance and plan. The way we do it in Israel, we have this method of matrix preparation. That on one vector, we have the various disabilities. The other vector is all kinds of emergency situations. Each crossing, we have to think about it both on the person with disability, about how he will handle it himself, but also what the state or the city is doing to help out in this situation. We also want to define exactly what to do and how to do in case of each emergency. We have to plan to have all resources to be available in case of emergency. And of course, we have to do both awareness and training to be prepared. The resources that we need and the services that we need in case of emergency, we need to be prepared to evacuation. That means we have to have transportation, but it's not a regular transportation. We have to make sure we have enough accessible transportation to take those that are in beds, those that are in wheelchairs, those that have problems to walk. Okay? Information. It's crucial that we have ways and means to bring information to people with disabilities and their families so they know exactly what to do, what to expect, and not be afraid of just not understanding and not knowing what's happening. We also need to be ready not just to evacuate, but also to assist at home those who decide to stay at home. So we need to communicate with them. We need to have food delivered, medications, health equipment, assistive technologies. Okay, all of this, we have to make sure we are able to give as a service to those that stay home. Those who evacuate, on top of transportation and accessible transportation, we have to make sure we have enough alternative accessible accommodations to evacuate them to. In Israel, we have the Home Front Command in charge on emergency situation. Together, they work with local municipalities and many volunteers organizations. We have special accessibility regulations for emergency situations, specifically for people with disabilities, including building in advance a database on people with disabilities, where they live, what their disability, and what they need regarding various services like medication and other medical equipment. Also, we know exactly who needs evacuation with accessible car or accessible transportation, and also who needs an accessible accommodation. In addition, we have a new law about accessible press release events. So those events are accessible in all languages for all kinds of disabilities, for hearing disability with sign language and captioning, for vision disabilities with audio descriptions, and for cognitive disabilities. So all disabilities will get the information. So in summary, our tips: pre-preparation, awareness and training, and be smart, evacuate in advance if possible before. Thank you very much, and hope we don't have to have any emergency situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yuval. Very important. And it's basically a combination of legislation, but legislation by itself is not enough. Legislation, training, awareness, and really making sure that it's not just there in the titles, but really happening on the ground. And I have no doubt that here in Israel, we are doing what we can to promote that. And the idea is, again, to see and learn from other places around the world and share what happens with us and make it better for the next times. Okay, so after we spoke in general about preparedness in times of emergency for accessibility, people with disabilities and the elderly, I would like to now take the time myself and introduce and share with you the Purple Vest mission, the initiative that we have been working on since the beginning of March. Please. So before I start this, I just want to double check that we're all on the same page. Access Israel was founded by Yuval Wagner, who sits in a wheelchair, but the whole idea of Access Israel is not one disability or another, but rather all disabilities, accessibility in all areas of life. And accessibility is in our name, but it's not the goal. It's a means to an end. The end is true inclusion, improvement of quality of life for people with all types of disability, all areas of life. This is what it's all about in peacetime and definitely during emergency time. Now, we were all excited to see on December 3rd when the social media was full of pictures of monuments all over the world, the Eiffel Tower, the Taj Mahal, the Empire State Building, all lit in purple with a clear message of leaving no one behind, the largest minority in the world, for the International Day of Rights of People with Disabilities. Unfortunately, 3 months later, when the war broke in Ukraine, what we are facing is people with disabilities and the elderly that are left behind. This was the whole idea of the Purple Vest, taking the purple from the lights, turning them into action that will be for all in times of emergency. Now, the Purple Vest today is focusing on what's going on in Ukraine, but the initiative as an initiative is something much bigger than that. The idea is leaving no one behind and creating a global professional task force and methodology for accessible management in times of emergency. Think of it as a contingency plan. Unfortunately, we do know that in the future there will be other wars, disasters, earthquakes, COVID, pandemics all over the world. And the idea is to create a plan that every country will be able to take it, customize it, and put it into action, making sure that people with disabilities and the elderly are around the table when decisions are made, and not to remember way into the disaster that we need to also adapt and make the changes and customize it for those vulnerable people. Now, we have to understand that I can tell you when I came to the border of Poland and Ukraine, everywhere you see people who are going through a trauma. Think about being, leaving your houses, leaving friends or family behind, not knowing what's going on. Of course, it's traumatic for anyone, but we have to understand that people with disabilities and the elderly, they are facing extra challenges, extra hardships. And when we are talking about providing assistance, we have to make sure that we have a clear understanding of their needs and the need for customization in whatever we are offering as help to people in Ukraine. It can be from their vulnerability, their medical condition, their special needs in evacuation cases. And we have seen cases where caregivers just left and fled. And I'm not judging anyone, of course, but people with disabilities and elderlies were left behind. This is what we need to make sure. Another thing is when we started this, we were very paternalistic in a way, which is something that I really try to avoid doing. But we're learning progress all the time. We were thinking about taking people out, helping people evacuate. The thing is, we understood very early on that not everybody wants to be evacuated. There are people who want to stay behind. Purple Vest makes sure that you don't leave behind somebody who wants to stay behind. You take care and you help and you assist and you offer help to them also. Now, it is important to always remember the person behind the disability, the person behind the stories, and I will get back to that later on at the end of my presentation. It is very easy to go into the mechanics and the technicalities and the its and bitsies of evacuation process, but we always have to look at the person in the eyes and make sure that we have him, her in our minds, and we're listening to them and not forcing anything that we think is right. We have to remember that before the war, there were 2.7 million people with disabilities registered in Ukraine. Again, we're talking all types of disabilities. One of the challenges I saw when I came to Tesco in Przemyśl in Poland, an amazing center where volunteers, heroes from all over the world are coming together and helping, welcoming people from Ukraine, assisting them for couple of days, for a week, while they're looking for other places to go to. People that are coming from all kinds of countries, some of which do not have accessibility or advanced accessibility back home. Others are coming from countries that accessibility is a regular feature. And we need to find a way to, talk and the same language. So here, it's very important for us at Purple Vest to make sure people understand what we're talking people with disabilities. It's all types of disabilities, not just wheelchairs, blind, deaf, but also cognitive disability, communication, mental, etc. And again, we have to remember that not all disabilities are visible. You can see the wheelchair, you can see the cane, maybe you can see some facial features that are evident that a person is with a disability, but there are many, many more. I've heard more, about 70% of people with disabilities around the world are without visible disability, but rather invisible ones. And we have to understand that we need to take care of and help and assist and be prepared to help those people as well. And there's, of course, extra task here to know how to recognize, to know how to communicate with these people. Now, it is important, one of the questions we're always asked in training is what is best? So I have been told that maybe in times of emergency, it's better to see your disability because then people know that to come and ask you if you need help and maybe how to help you. But unfortunately, again, it's not unfortunate, but it's very individual. Each one will answer you something different. So what is the Purple Vest mission doing? Basically, I can sum it up in 3 points. 1, evacuating. Evacuating people with disability. It's like a task force. We're building each case. Each one of the pictures, the faces, is a whole story of its own. And we have to understand the needs and find solutions, customized solutions. Another part is, as I said, taking care or helping those choosing to stay behind, not leaving them behind. And again, understanding what their needs are and assisting usually with people on the ground, people who are already there doing an amazing job. Another thing is knowledge. Knowledge is probably one of the most important things to provide people in such cases. I can tell you that we had many cases where people with disabilities, one case I remember in Kiev, an elderly lady, an ambulance actually came to her house to pick her up, an accessible one. They were prepared to take her from Kiev to Lvov. And over there, don't worry, it'll be okay. Well, it wasn't okay. She refused to go because she needed knowledge. She needed to know what will happen once she's there. She needed to understand, to see pictures, to be more clear that the accessibility offered to her at point A will continue all the way through. So our website basically is coming to two audiences. One is people with disabilities, elderly, and their families in Ukraine, offering them a possibility to register for evacuation or for help, and to receive information, checklists on what to take for the way. How do you know to ask the right questions and find out if the accommodations you're looking for are really the right one for you? What's going on? Can we see stories of people with similar disabilities as I have and understand what they went through? These are bits of information that really make a difference. Another audience for our website are volunteers, organization, already there trying to help whether virtually or physically in Ukraine and in the neighboring countries, information and trainings on what is needed, how to do it right, how to do it accessible. Lastly, Purple Vest Mission is offering anyone to join. Even if you are now in your country and have nothing to do with what's going on in Ukraine, the idea is to create really a network all over the world of people who are adding on information to Purple Vest, technologies, methodologies, and being prepared if and when it hits closer to home. Accessibility, again, just so we'll all talk the same language, it's not just the ability to arrive to places, it's not just the physical accessibility, but the services provided, the facilities provided to all have to be also fitted for people with disabilities. We always call it turning the human factor into a human ramp. Training enables that. Training will make sure that the services you're given in a registration point on the border, or people who are coming to your house and providing you supplies, know to do it in a way that enables you to enjoy the services offered. And again, in a perfect world, we're talking about providing that safely as equals, with respect, comfortably, with maximum independence. During times of wars, we just want to be able to enable people to arrive to places, enable them to receive the services and use the facilities. Unfortunately, we cannot expect perfect accessibility always, but we're doing the best we can by joining hands. Now, this is just an example of an evacuation roadmap that we are encountering in Ukraine. From the minute a person gathers information to decide whether to leave, the decision to leave, getting out of the house, traveling, getting to the border, and there's all kinds of regulations and policies that might differ from country to country, getting to those registration points from which you go out to other places, and finding the final accommodation for long term. All of this sequence, we have to understand, has its difficulties, has its challenges, but has solutions. Solutions that through training, through joining hands, we will be able to make sure exists. And we have to understand with accessibility, if it's not accessible all the way, it's not accessible. It's not enough to say, mostly, step 1, 2, and 5 are accessible. In between, there's a problem, because in many cases, those stages which are not will just be a block and will not enable to complete the journey. So, as I said, the whole idea is connecting the dots, making sure all stages in the sequence are accessible. And again, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We are looking to partner with those who are already doing amazing things. We are listening to the ground, to the challenges, to the requests, helping them the way they want to be helped. And again, we have to understand, we are working in an area under war. We are working in an area that is structureless many times, shaky setting. One road can be good one day and the next one it's bombarded, and that's not the venue to go to. We have to be connected. We have to get information. We have to be flexible, innovative, and attentive. Up till now, we have evacuated more than 700 people. more than 500 have received supplies, and the numbers are rising. I think since the time we made this presentation, trainings are done both digitally and face-to-face. And as I mentioned before, it was an honor and a pleasure to help turn Tesco International Relocation Center in Sheshmil into a more accessible ones. And it's work in progress still, but we have amazing people there to work with. And what's next? So as I said, Ukraine 2022 is now the focus, now the goal. But again, I'm urging each one of you to look at it as a bigger picture, looking globally, preparing an inclusive emergency preparedness guideline, and recruiting those global representatives that even if they're not active now, they will be prepared to help elsewhere. And lastly, the people. Remember the people. Remember the faces. This is who we're here for, and we always have to be attentive to their needs. So thank you very much for the attention. And our next speaker is actually a group of speakers led by our own amazing Eli Gleiberman. Eli is one of the gems that we picked along the way, right at the beginning, made a connection. A dear guy that was born in Ukraine, lives in Israel, and basically put a lot of his business aside and is focused at helping and doing an amazing job doing that. Really appreciated. And Eli has brought together several of our people on the ground, our partners from Ukraine, to share with us. Let's hear it from them. Eli is the head of the operations of Purple Vest Ukraine 2022. And I can tell you, operations is 24/7. Let's hear it from Eli and the amazing, amazing partners.
Всем доброго вечера. Мы из Украины. Основная команда Purple Vest, которая находится в Украине. Мы сегодня будем записывать это видео для того, чтобы донести до мира, донести в Ассамблею ООН самые важные вещи, самые необходимые и самые горячие темы, которые сейчас происходят на Украине, для того, чтобы мы популяризировали наш проект. Первый вопрос, ребят, где и как вы узнали то, что началось полномасштабное вторжение на Украину? Я бы хотел, чтобы на этот вопрос ответила Наталья Мазур.
В 5 утра мой муж вышел на балкон курить, и у нас на Салтовке просто сразу прилетело. То есть вот обстрел начался, и мы его просто увидели. Он меня разбудил и сказал: Наташа, война началась.
Алексей,
да.
Скажи, пожалуйста, где застала эта новость тебя?
Я был в Израиле, рано утром работал на своем проекте, и мне позвонили и сказали: включи новости.
Где ты находишься сейчас локально?
Сейчас я нахожусь в Польше, после того, как вывез женщину из Харькова в клинику, где ее приняли на лечение, на реабилитацию, по дороге назад в Украину, в Польшу.
Я хотел задать вопрос, каковой была ваша жизнь до 24 февраля? Чем вы занимались, где вы жили, как вы жили? Мария.
Чем я занималась? Я собиралась в декрет, потому что это был 6-й месяц беременности, сейчас уже 9-й. Мы находимся сейчас в Харькове, занимаемся волонтерской деятельностью сейчас. А до этого я мама, ждем 2-го ребенка. Сейчас все сложно, и мы уже 3 месяца в войне. Харьков нас сейчас бомбят и усиленно. Жизнь, уже такой жизни, как была, не будет, даже если все закончится завтра. Но, судя по ситуации, завтра пока не наступает.
Дим Доронин, расскажи, пожалуйста, чем ты занимался до 24 февраля?
Я сам родом из Донецка. На момент начала войны находился в Киеве. Свою работу веду в Харькове. Занимался я швейным бизнесом. Все было успешно и все было прекрасно, пока не пришли оккупанты на нашу родную землю.
Расскажите, где вы сейчас находитесь, как вы оказались в этом месте и чем вы сейчас занимаетесь, Илья?
На данный момент в Харькове. Попал сюда спустя 20 лет жизни в Израиле. И 24 февраля, когда началась война, я понял, что если я выбрал жить в этой стране, то мой выбор, он однозначен и бесповоротен. помогаем и бабушкам, и дедушкам, и взрослым медикаментами, и едой, и всем, чем можем.
Лиза.
Привет, я Лиза из Киева. Сейчас я нахожусь в Израиле. 24 февраля в 4 утра я вернулась со съемки домой. Это была последняя ночь, которую я провела вместе со своей командой, со своими друзьями. Через полчаса после того, как пришла домой, я узнала, что началась война, потому что мне позвонила сестра. Мы уехали в село, волонтерили. Потом я вернулась в Киев к родителям. В этот день взорвалось под домом у нас. И меня родители уговорили вывезти бабушку в Израиль, потому что она сложно ходит, и для нее спускаться в убежище — это достаточно большая проблема. Вместе с этим я поехала в Ирпень, под бомбежками вывезла бабушку своего одноклассника. Пешком мы переходили мост, который разрушен. И вот мы втроем, я и две бабушки, мы вместе сейчас приехали в Израиль. И я работаю вместе с нашей командой израильской, координирую, помогаю как могу отсюда.
Я хотел задать следующий вопрос. Чем вы занимаетесь сейчас и почему вы этим занимаетесь? Галина.
Чем я занимаюсь сейчас, легче сказать, чем не занимаюсь. Начиная от того, что оказываем гуманитарную помощь всем, кто оказался в сложной ситуации. Я нахожусь постоянно в Харькове. Мы начали заниматься эвакуацией. Сейчас мы уже занимаемся еще целой и патронажем, и многими другими вещами. Кроме нашей команды, практически очень мало людей, которые занимаются эвакуацией, вывозом сложных людей, малоподвижных.
Ира.
Я локально нахожусь сейчас в Варшаве. Занимаюсь сейчас тем, что помогаю беспомощным людям, на самом деле, которые попали в ужасную ситуацию, выбраться из страны, помочь им в гуманитарной помощи. Почему я этим занимаюсь? Потому что самый большой пинок такой у меня — это моя команда, которая в Киеве была раньше. Наши партнеры, которые с самого начала войны вели с нами разные проекты, занимались гуманитарной помощью. Они завозили гуманитарную помощь именно в Чернигов, и всю эту команду, а это 10 человек, моих родных, близких, с которыми я 24/7 была на связи, просто расстреляли. И я себе после этого пообещала, что я как бы не перестану помогать, я не перестану этого делать. И для меня это самое важное сейчас дело на самом деле.
Я сейчас перейду к самому важному вопросу, на мой взгляд. Какая самая большая трудность в вашей работе на данный момент сейчас? Начнем с Димы. Дима Доронин.
Большие трудности сейчас состоят. Это две проблемы. Это финансирование для детей-сирот, детей, вывезенных с оккупированных территорий. Также это средства для покупки для тех же детей игрушек, парт для обучения, для того, чтобы народ Украины развивался. Я выделяю два пункта. Это логистика, очень тяжелая сейчас с Европы. И второе – это средства.
Наташа.
Я бы, пожалуй, акцент сделала на том, что очень большая вариативность проблем. Мы можем не знать, что нужно в какой момент. Нужны средства на какие-то вещи, которые ты заранее не заложишь в проект. Все очень быстро меняется. Сегодня мы вывозим здоровых людей, остались старики. Эти старики, мы не можем их вывести, потому что они в подвале. Им нужно гуманитарку везти. Для того, чтобы везти им гуманитарку, нужен автотранспорт. Вот сейчас все везут этот автотранспорт.
Маш, тогда расскажи, пару слов.
Я считаю, самая основная трудность, первая, это куда селить людей, которых мы эвакуировали. Идет именно комплексный, нужен подход правильный по распределению людей. Это очень большая проблема. Вторая очень большая проблема – это волонтеры, которые выдохлись за 3 месяца работы. Мы нуждаемся в финансировании под определенные проекты, чтобы мы могли волонтеров удерживать их здесь, давая им под проекты премии, рабочие места за выполненный труд. Поэтому нужно официальное финансирование фондов.
Алексей.
И все задают мне один и тот же вопрос. Алексей, когда вы приедете меня забирать? Это самый тяжелый момент во всей этой работе. Оставить человека в незнакомом месте, в незнакомой стране с незнакомыми немецкоговорящими или польскоговорящими сотрудниками, это самый тяжелый момент в моей работе.
Аленка, привет еще раз.
Есть несколько направлений, в которых мы работаем. Первое направление — это дети. Сейчас очень много каких-то таких ограничений, которые касаются детей, особенно сирот. Мы очень хотели их вывести за границу, потому что в Украине нет столько места, чтобы за ними ухаживать, и нет этих средств, потому что все-таки сейчас государство думает об войне, а не о детях, да. Вот это есть такая трудность, потому что тоже у нас все-таки люди думают больше о солдатах, что нужно все делать касательно только победы.
Если я со своей стороны финализирую именно этот вопрос, 3 основные вещи, которые я услышал, это финансирование человеческого ресурса, 2 – это места эвакуации, и 3 – это гуманитарная помощь для людей, которые находятся непосредственно там. У каждого, я уверен, да, есть какая-то особая история, какая-то ситуация, да, в работе, как волонтеры, да, как часть команды. Расскажите, да, вот именно ту ситуацию или про того человека, который у вас вот в голове запомнился надолго-долго. Наташа.
Это, наверное, наш большой успех с Галей вместе был и наша большая неудача. Мы решили масштабненько, мы заказали вагон, собрали со Салтовки лежачих 17 человек, всех вместе погрузили их в этот вагон отправили, я договорилась с принимающей стороной. Вагон едет, и мне принимающая сторона звонит и говорит, что мы принимать их не будем. Звоню Гале и говорю: Галь, что делать? А она мне говорит: а ты не переживай, все решится. Появятся люди, они всегда появляются, которые помогут. Действительно, появились люди, и они помогли. Был немецкий фонд, это была военная администрация на Западной Украине. Это было вот так это произошло. То есть вот это вот, наверное, самая большая такая удача.
Ир, расскажи, если у тебя есть какая-то такая история, которая на тебя повлияла и запомнилась.
Сейчас очень сложная ситуация именно с солдатами, потому что их жизнь реально висит на волоске. То есть один день у них хорошее самочувствие, состояние, на второй день они уже практически на том свете. И ситуация, когда жизнь человека висит на волоске, на меня влияет больше всего.
Илья, у тебя есть история, которая запомнилась тебе за все это время?
Есть маленький мальчик, которому было 2,5 года. Это мальчик, которого я вывез из Мариуполя. 21 марта я со знакомым собрался, и мы на своих волонтерских парах решили, что мы поедем в Мариуполь, оккупированный, и мы будем вывозить людей, кого сможем. Нам удалось спасти 7 человек, из них 2 взрослых бабушки, мужчина с женщиной, и еще 2 девочки с маленьким ребенком. И вот когда я доставил их до конечной точки, его спасибо, улыбка дают мне каждый день силы для того, чтобы просыпаться и продолжать заниматься тем, чем я занимаюсь.
Если у тебя есть вкратце с улыбкой рассказать, и это будет очень круто.
Я, наверное, расскажу последний разговор с своим другом. Это было 23 число. Он перед этим месяцем возвратился из войны, потому что попал под обстрелы. Там очень много людей умерло. Но мы его поставили на ноги, он был снайпером. И после этого он поехал на войну, пробыл 5 дней, и они все умерли. Для этого привезли его тело, и мы пришли на похорон. Пришел мой друг, который был после тоже ранения, 8 осколков в нем было, да. Он не заплакал ни разу. Это его был очень близкий друг. И пришел мальчик, это сын этого парня. Он остался сиротой, потому что его мать умерла, когда ему был 1 год от рака. Мальчик остался один, он ни разу не заплакал. Он пришел ко мне и сказал: Алена, спасибо, что ты есть. Я знаю, что папа всегда говорил о тебе. Он всегда говорил, что нужно улыбаться. Поэтому никогда не плачь. И всегда, когда тяжело, всегда улыбайся и пей кофе. Это очень важно.
Ребят, я хочу попросить каждого, есть возможность, да, чтобы вас услышали в мире, что бы вы хотели сказать миру. Мария, давайте начнем с тебя.
Хочу сказать, что мы живем в великолепной стране. Мы это все прекрасно поняли. И сейчас народ Украины, как единый кулак, нас не надо освобождать. Мы не хотим русского мира. Мы хотим жить в спокойствии, рожать в своих домах своих детей, воспитывать их и не покидать свой дом. И мы любим свою страну и будем отстаивать ее до конца, друзья.
Лиза.
Я хочу сказать с точки зрения украинской современной молодежи. Мы очень талантливы, мы очень классные. И я хочу, чтобы мы наш талант тратили на то, чтобы создавать что-то новое, а не придумывать, как оплатить новые автоматы, тепловизоры и скорые. Я хочу, чтобы мы создавали мир и строили культуру, а не думали о том, как защищать нашу страну. И я прошу мир помнить об этом.
Ать.
Я хотела сказать, что в моей жизни война присутствует с 2014 года, потому что я родилась в Луганске, там началась война, тогда у меня забрали мой родной дом. Сейчас народ Украины борется за мир, и моя очень большая мечта, чтобы мои дети никогда не видели войну, чтобы они не понимали, насколько это страшно, не знали, что такое война. И сейчас мы за это боремся, я хочу, чтобы мир не забывал об этом и помогал нам в этой борьбе, и чтобы в нашем мире все-таки был мир, и когда-нибудь я смогла приехать в свой родной город и в свой дом.
Ир.
Я хочу сказать, чтобы мир не забывал. На данный момент война не закончилась, и люди не перестали умирать. И я хочу попросить всех продолжать помогать, продолжать не быть безразличными и не уставать от того, что мы делаем.
Наташ.
Люди, не бойтесь. Страх – это грех. Не бойтесь действовать, не бойтесь помогать.
Лёш.
Просто повторю, передо мной сказано, для меня война началась в 2014 году. Я тоже родился в Луганске, не могу туда попасть. Очень надеюсь, что когда-нибудь я пройдусь по родным улицам, побываю на могилах своих родных. И я остаюсь в Украине до последнего, до победы.
Илья?
Хочу пожелать единственное, чтобы, как сказала Наташа, чтобы мир не боялся брать на себя ответственность и делать какие-то шаги в пользу Украины, как сегодня делают это все украинцы. Наберитесь смелости и делайте шаги вперед.
Я хочу сказать от себя, то есть я благодарю Бога, что я познакомился с каждым из вас.
So we heard testimonials, but you know, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I would like to share a very short clip from one of the evacuations. So those with visual disabilities, this was a short video of bits and pieces of an evacuation process of a 91-year-old lady from Kharkov, from a very difficult area, with her daughter to her granddaughter. This is from the ground. Our next speaker is the amazing Olena Fetsenets. I hope that I'm pronouncing her name right. I can tell you that for me, she's just Olenka, an amazing Ukrainian lady I met, the founder of International Charitable Foundation Freedom Ukraine. Olenka, share with us, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olena, and today I will tell you about our charity organization Freedom Ukraine. Our organization started working for the second day of this war. It's hard to understand this way for Ukraine, but now it works and it's moving. We understand we can help people. We see smile. We understand in Ukraine many people with disabilities, many children with disabilities, elderly people, women with children without any solutions to live because they don't have money, they don't have houses, works, and they don't have anything. And they come in our city. They have a very big list of needs, And we work for this needs 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. We believe that ends, but now it's not works. We understand why it's for a long time. It's very long time for Ukraine. We have very nice people. We have superwoman, superman in Ukraine. They are brave, they are smart, and they know for what reason they do this. I have many perfect volunteers because they work, they believe, and they want to live in Ukraine. They always say me, we can do this. I want to tell you about our volunteers. Our volunteer is Dima. He lives in Kharkiv before this war. He was very good person, and he was businessman. Now we work together. We organize humanitarian helping for people, for elderly people. We buy food, medicine, and send them. He go for children and play with them because they don't have parents. I want to tell you about Sasha. He lives in Kyiv. I always said he like a rock star in our Ukraine, in our country. He's always smiling, and when I don't have power to move, he always move. He always said me, we can do this. Olena, please give me solutions. I can do this. It's amazing. I want to tell you about Karina, this woman, very brave, because she goes to cities who are bombing, and she make videos for this to understand what situation in Ukraine. I want to tell you about many people, but 5 minutes it's not enough. In our Ukraine, we saw brave people, we saw amazing people. But now I understand. I want to tell you about children without parents. I want to tell you about women with children without their husband, because our husbands are soldiers in our war, and they are dying. This woman know they don't know what to do tomorrow. When I come, I saw their eyes. They are not happy. Children don't say anything. They are not smiling. When I go to these children, I took with me some sweets, some toys, but they don't want to have sweets. They only say me, please give me some comfortable shoes because I must running fast. It's not normal, and now I understand this. My morning begins with calling for another cities in Ukraine, and they call me and say, sorry, but we don't have food, please send us. We don't have transfer. Now we have very bad situation with transfer in our Ukraine. We don't have solutions to organize transfer to another city. But we work for this every day. And when we do this, we are always happy. We drink water and say for our win. It's our day every day. Thank you for your time. And I think we will see you in Ukraine, because in future Ukraine will be a very nice country. One thing I want to tell you about a very nice mission, what we start in Ukraine with Israel organization. It's a Purple Vest mission, because now we can help people with disabilities. We understand many Solutions are not really, but now we can work with people with disabilities and help them. Thank you for all this work. See you. Bye.
Thank you, Alenka. And remember what I always tell you, we're here for the marathon, not the sprint. Keep up doing good. Our next speaker is one of my favorite experiences that we had in this mission. It's the power of technology to make a difference in times of emergency. I will allow Tomer, the CEO of Sign Now, Tomer Levy, to share the amazing story of a small help that goes a long way. Tomer, please.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Tomer Levy from Israel and I am the CEO of Sign Now. Sign Now is a social international startup that comes to solve the problem of 90 million deaf people who start their life in lower point. Today they cannot communicate with the hearing environment, and for that we established the Sign Now app that connects between deaf consumers, sign language interpreters and service providers in one button, on demand, anywhere and anytime. First, I want to thank to Access Israel, Michal, Yuval, and all your great team, and also to Purple Vest Mission. You're doing a terrific job to make this world accessible for people with disabilities. And now, let's see the Sign Now app. With the Sign Now app, if I'm a deaf person, I can push one button, and to see the sign language interpreter, say hi to Shirley. And with Shirley, I can talk with anyone, anywhere, and anytime. If I want to call to the bank, to a doctor, physic, or outside. And now let's talk about the connection between people with disabilities, technology, and emergency. At the war between Russia to Ukraine, millions of people went to the border and escaped from Ukraine. Try to understand how is it to be a citizen in a war. And right now try to think how is it to be a deaf citizen in a war. You cannot communicate with anyone and you cannot go anywhere. And for that, in the war, we connected between deaf people to talk with emergency call centers and to help them to cross the border to get to Israel or any state that they want. Another example is with Michal. She was at the border between Poland and Russia, and one deaf woman came there and tried to communicate with the people to tell them her needs and to tell them that she needs help right now and what does she need to do to go to the next step. In one button from Poland, from the border, in 2 seconds, we connected between the deaf woman to sign language interpreter and helped her to accomplish her dreams. So I want to thank everyone and have a great day. And let's make this mission and this dream accessible and come true this year for 90 million deaf people. We at Sign Now are ready to make this world accessible. So see you soon. Bye-bye.
And I can tell you, add to what Tomer said, it was pretty amazing. Right in the middle of a training in Tesco, trying to convince the volunteers why it is important to learn about accessibility. And 2 volunteers come with that deaf lady. I can tell you she looked very lost at the beginning. And as Tomer said, minutes later, we understood her daughter is waiting in Germany. She's just trying to get there, and nobody understood her. That afternoon, she went on her way. Thank you to all our amazing speakers. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's okay to sit at home, but we have to remember that we need to be sensitive, aware, ready, making sure that in our neck of the world, people with disabilities and elderly are integrated in an inclusive society always, but especially at times of wars and at times of emergency. So let's remember why we're here. So thank you, everybody, and you're more than welcome to go into the website that you'll see now in the chat, join in, sign in for Purple Vest, become a partner, become a representative in your country, and let's do good together. Thank you very much.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double high or more. Simply visit the JBS website at jbstv.org and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check to JBS, Post Office Box 360, Stamford, Connecticut 06904. Or you can call the JBS Pledge Line at 833-MY-JBS-TV. That's 833-695-2788. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. We thank you for your kind support.